going on, guys? Rachel West back with you, and I'm joined once again by Rick Stroud and Joey Knight. Guys, 2021 draft in the books. We had 4 draft picks today. I'm going to get right to it. Rick, I'll start with you. Jalen Darden, a wide receiver from North Texas. Talk to us a little bit about him and what the Bucs are getting with him.
Yeah, I mean, just a really explosive guy, very fast guy, highly productive. He had 19 touchdowns last year to lead the nation. This guy has quite a story. His dad died just before the start of his final year there at North Texas, and really inspired him. He had suffered a long heart disease illness. In fact, the Bucs told me that at one point he was sending home scholarship money to help pay for his medical care. I mean, this is a great kid that's going to help them right away as a kick returner, and just a really add some speed to their special teams.
Yeah, you can tell his dad really had a strong impact on him, so that's definitely a good story there. And then Joey, we'll go on over to you with their 5th round pick, KJ Britt, a linebacker out of Auburn. What do the Bucs like about him?
Very violent, fierce interior run defender. They're looking at him as a guy who can contribute on special teams. Initially, he will have to transition and learn the nuances of Todd Bowles' 3-4 scheme. He's a middle linebacker at Auburn. He was a team captain. That's another kind of common denominator among this draft class. They drafted a lot of team captains. KJ Britt is one of those guys. Had an outstanding season in 2019. Was limited to only 2 games in 2020 due to a thumb injury that may or may not have affected his draft status. But this is a guy is just an alpha male, really high motor. Again, very violent kind of run defender and tackler who just has to come in and learn. And in the meantime, is going to be counted on to play special teams.
Yeah, he's definitely joining a solid group of linebackers already there. Now we'll bounce on back over to you with the first pick in the 7th round, Rick. Chris Wilcox, a corner out of BYU.
Yeah, Chris Wilcox has a lot of the traits that they like in their corners. He's a tall guy. He's 6'2", can really run, and ran he surprised everybody at his pro day. Ran like a 4.31 40-yard dash. A good tackler, even for a lengthy guy. I think that where he lacks maybe is some of the ball skills. He didn't have an interception in the years that he played at BYU, but he's going to help them immediately on special teams. And it reminds you of the kind of corners they have, over 6 feet. Carlton Davis, Sean Murphy Bunting, you name them. They're all kind of long guys. So I think he's going to fit right in with Todd Bowles' defense. He's got an interesting off-field habit. He's a music producer. He had one of his productions go viral on TikTok. So he's an interesting guy for sure.
Everyone loves TikTok nowadays. Can't go wrong there. Now, Joey, back on over to you with the last pick of the draft. This year's Mr. Irrelevant, Grant Stewart, a linebacker out of Houston. And I think he probably has one of the best hair games in the game.
Well, there's nothing irrelevant about this guy once you learn about his backstory. First, on the field, he's led Houston in tackles the last 2 years. He's a linebacker, another very high motor guy. Yeah, long hair, like you said. I think I indicated in my story, his motor goes into the 90s, but his hair beckons to the 80s. That's what he looks like. But I'll tell you what, he may be one of the most intriguing and inspirational stories of this whole draft class. He has readily acknowledged publicly that his mother has struggled with addiction and even sex trafficking, and he's done a lot for a organization that fights sex trafficking, among a lot of other philanthropic endeavors. He's a devout Christian. He made no secret of his faith during his Zoom session with reporters. So this is a guy who's tried to make a difference off the field. He's had a very hard scrabble life. He's talked about having to support 4 siblings from time to time. So he's a guy Bucs fans should root for just based on what he's dealt with in his life. And I think he's got a good chance just based on what he brings to the table. Again, a guy who can be a special teams dynamo and can learn, the nuances, a linebacker in the 3-4 scheme in the meantime.
Also interesting, his dad, he had one hat. That's it. One hat. His dad brought him a hat. He didn't know who it belonged to. Turned out to be the old Bucko Bruce cap. So a little bit of serendipity there that he was able to wear after he was drafted.
It was meant to be. So now with all the picks said and done, Rick, I'll start with you. Can you just kind of give us an overall grade and assessment of the Bucs draft this year?
Well, they went into it not having needs as much as wants, and yet I still think they filled some needs with Joe Tryon, who I think is going to develop into a really good outside edge rusher. Again, they got Jason Pierre-Paul, they got Shaq Barrett. The most interesting pick by far is Kyle Trask. Not a guy they expect to play, and we don't know how long Brady will play. He might outlast Trask's contract, but certainly somebody that Bruce Arians thinks will fit their offense. And the rest of them, I think they added speed, they added character to their football team. These guys are all selfless. They're all going to fit right in with this group, and I don't know how many can make it. It's going to be quite difficult, I think, for some of these rookies to stick.
And Joey, what are your thoughts on the overall draft, and how would you assess what they did?
I think they did what they set out to do, which was to create depth, as Rick talked about, and to really, get better on special teams. They got a lot of guys with great potential to be burners or gunners or just enforcers on special teams. Look, this draft, was not the most critical in Tampa Bay history. No front office jobs were at stake. There are no jobs on the field to compete for right now with everybody back. It wasn't a molecular science midterm. I think I wrote it's more of a PE pop quiz, but they aced it. They went out and got what they needed. Some guys who can contribute on special teams and some guys who can provide depth at key positions. They did that. So I think they aced this draft.
Yeah, and like you guys have said, they have some interesting people in the mix there, and it'll be certainly interesting to keep up with if they make the team and what all ends up happening with them. Regular season, I mean, it's coming up. It's not too soon, but I'm sure it'll come up before we know it. So until then, though, guys, make sure you're keeping up with both Rick and Joey over on Twitter. And as always, be sure you're checking out all of their content that they got up for you over at tampabay.com.